everybody. Welcome to another podcast with your saltwater guide, Captain Dave Hansen. I want to thank you all yesterday for all the phenomenal remarks and all the great comments and all the great questions you sent in to my beautiful wife, Kelly. Today we have a phenomenal show for you. I am super excited. Was a little bit nervous. I kind of been thinking about this for a long time. I'm a big promoter of Okuma, and I'm super happy to have John with us today. But real quick, we're going to jump into some business, and then we'll get going here. Gang, I have a giant request. I'm going to be up in Southern California for the Anthony Shea Lifetime Conservation Award given to Bill Shedd. We'll be in town on the 3rd for that dinner. I need somebody this weekend to catch me a shovel-nosed shark. I need a shovel-nosed shark. Really, I need one shovel-nosed shark. If someone's able to catch me a shovel-nosed shark, I will promote the heck out of you across all social media. We will blow up your Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, your charter company, whatever. I need a shovel-nosed shark. 949-374-0786. I need this shovel-nosed shark so bad. It's incredible how bad I need a shovel-nosed shark. So please check that out. Also, today is Pacific Sport Fishing Alliance. They're the big promoter of the shows on Friday. We'll show you a little bit more about Pacific Sport Fishing Alliance at about the 20-minute mark. So check that out. And without any further ado, let's bring in John Bretza, one of my really close personal friends, and I've got to watch him and his family grow up in the industry. And oh my God, come on in, John. Let's get this thing going, man. A lot of people here to see you. John, welcome to the show.
Man, I'm super pumped up. I'm surprised it's actually taken so long for us to actually connect and get on the show. But, we have both a friendship, we fish together, and, I also consider you a mentor in the fishing industry. So I'm super excited to join you here today.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, one of the most coolest things that has ever happened to me is when Todd Manser brought me over to meet you 20 years ago. I believe it was 20 or 8, something like that. I'm looking at all my records. It's got to be about 20 years we've been together doing this stuff and promoting Okuma and just doing all the cool things that we've got to do, and getting to hang out with you and your boys and your wife and your mother-in-law and father-in-law, and all the love that you guys give me when you come to my shows and you see me. And the kids, well, now they're men, but when they were little growing up, they used to love to come to Captain Dave's seminars. It's just been a blast. Kelly girl and I still remember the night we took Xander and you and me and Brandon Cotton, and we went squid fishing. The kids were so little then. It's been just an absolute wonderful time growing up with you and growing up with Okuma. And what I normally ask everybody is, and I already know, but how'd you end up in this fishing thing? What happened? Because you get to go fishing all over the world, and that's why you haven't been with us, because you're so damn busy promoting Okuma all over the world. So tell me how you got into this.
Well, first off, I feel I'm one of the luckiest guys, in the planet. I've got the best job in the world. I've been very fortunate, my background, but, I played baseball for a long time in college, a couple of years of minor league baseball. I coach my boys right now, but my passion growing up was baseball and fishing. And, I've been with Okuma now over 25 years. So, time flies, but I absolutely love what I do. And, when I was younger, I grew up, fishing, I get dropped off down at, Davies Locker, Newport Landing, and I'd fish on, the Freelance, which was, one of the biggest boats in the fleet down here for, 3/4 day boat. Or, I'd fish with, Kenny down there on the Thunderbird and, do the overnight stuff. And at the time, I was in junior high, freshman year high school. I wasn't driving at the time. I'd just get dropped off. And honestly, I didn't have YouTube. We didn't have, the, social media that we have today. So I was pretty much self-taught. I learned from my grandpa at a young age on the freshwater side, but I did everything I could to read. And, my goal, I wanted to be in the fishing industry. And so, what ended up happening was I fished all the time. I used to do a lot of float tubing. I'd float to Newport Harbor every opportunity I'd get. But, what I really wanted to do, I wanted to own a tackle shop, and so, when I was playing minor league baseball, and I was playing up in Canada, and in between in the off season, I was buying tackle, closeouts, and I was selling it to swap meet with the goal to kind of, build up enough, money to where I could actually start a small little tackle shop. And, fortunately, my wife saw an ad in the paper, kind of right place at the right time with Okuma, hiring. At the time, nobody really knew who Okuma was, 26 years ago. And it was for local sales rep. They had nobody in California for a sales rep. I applied, and when I started, I was really the first fisherman in the company. They knew how to build products, to a certain spec, but at the time it was a lot smaller, mostly combos and small spinning reels. And so I kind of used my experience in fishing to educate the engineers. Went back to the factory, and over the years, I've done everything at Okuma from national sales manager to national product or national marketing manager to, the point where I've been the majority of the time now as, director of product development. And, as we talked about, you made the kind of the joke about me, fishing all over the world. That's one of the things when you get in with a fishing company, you hope you get an opportunity to fish. Well, being that I'm in charge of product development, I'm also in charge of all of our product testers. So we get to test the products. But I have had the opportunity to travel, quite a few cool places. And I mean, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Of course, I wanted to be a major league ball player. I got the opportunity to get paid to play baseball. And, now I could say I get paid to fish. And I mean, it's just really just a dream for me to, be able to be in the fishing industry.
Oh, it's incredible to watch you and see the pictures. And you're constantly sending me cool pictures of where you're at and what you're doing. But besides that, just watching what you've done with your boy, with Xander and Zach, and how you've brought them into your passion of both fishing and baseball. Those two young men are just phenomenal athletes. Oh my gosh, they're incredible athletes. And like, I know how hard it was for Xander when he was playing in places where there were fish. And he would literally go from practice over to fish for a few minutes so that he could catch a couple fish and then jump back on the field. And all the pictures, and he was sending me all that cool stuff. I mean, those young men are so blessed to get to have you as a father because of the fact that they love baseball and they love fishing. They won the lottery having you as their dad because, oh my gosh, look at what they're getting to do. I mean, I've been watching those boys since they were little. Never in my wildest imagination did they think that they would pick up the baseball bug like they have. But they got that fishing bug when they were little. They were both way into it. I remember fishing with them when they were little. They had it. You couldn't pull the rods out of their hands. And Xander especially. Zach, a little bit. It was more in, there's Zach, more into the candy in the beginning. Me and him just sitting on the engine hatch, eating candy, because I'm a candy addict. Ever since I got sober 35 years ago, I replaced it with sweets and candy. And boy, and look at the boys. Look at, oh my gosh. That's a great story. We were talking about this. This happened this winter. You and I were talking, hey, there's a giant swell coming. You're all, Xander's in town. I'm all, you guys got to go hooping in Dana. Look at what you did. Talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, it was, we were talking about it. We had, some pretty heavy weather coming in. It was a big surge. We were fishing, Dana Point breakwall. And, it's always a little sketchy when you have that, heavy surge. But we also had the rain. And, as you talk about all the time, the bugs don't like fresh water, especially by those rocks. It gets them crawling. And so Xander and I, just two of us went out, went to our favorite spot there at Dana Point. And we got 13 out of 14 bugs. And I mean, we threw 3 of them back. We're measuring them. We're like, oh man, it's like, they look legal, but it's so close, so we threw them back. But I mean, it was actually the best lobster fishing we've had out of Dana Point. It was a truly incredible night.
It was epic when you sent me those pictures the next morning. I was like, yeah, it worked. The plan came together. The game plan worked, and it came together, and it was perfect. But it also rod and reel fishermen, those two young men are phenomenal with the rod and reel. Those guys can throw the plastic. And, we're talking about the lure fishing. How bitchin' is it that they're involved with you and they're involved in Okuma? And yeah, they get to touch some of the best rods and reels made. But now with fish labs on board with Okuma, they get to fish some of the most coolest lures. I mean, Mike over there developing all these bitchin' lures with fish labs, and then Xander and Zach taking those out, and look at just catching fish one after the other with all these bitchin' lures. What a great way to grow up, right?
Yeah, Xander and I both love throwing the plastics, which, if you're on the boat, you're going to call them rubbers, right? But, we feel they, produce, 1-to-1 or even better sometimes in live bait, which I know you'll argue with me on that one. But, Xander and I, we were out, fishing around the isthmus, one day, and we were throwing that A-rig, and he is pulling 3 and 4 fish at a time. I mean, these are 2-3 pound fish and bigger calicos on that A-rig. I mean, we just enjoy throwing that A-rig. Just it's such a cool deal to get that strike and maybe get a chance at multiple fish.
Oh, well, so many days you and I on your boat going out and fishing the pipe in front of Dana Point, one of my very most favorite spots, and me making you put bait on the boat even though you had 9 million lures. And I'm like, well, I got to have some bait to fish with. And I'll tell you what, gang, John was catching a fish, Zach was catching a fish, Xander was catching a fish, and I was having a rough time. I ended up cutting off my hook and putting on I call them rubber lures. They're plastics, I know that, but I'm old school, and so I still call them rubber lures. I started using them, and then all of a sudden we're using the Mad Eel. We're using so many different things. I don't even remember all the names of them, but oh my gosh, the stuff works so good. I'm still a bait guy, but when I'm watching everybody around me catch fish, I have to switch over. And we had so many great days fishing. And when I first started hoop netting on the Helena, I remember you guys coming with me when I was doing the hoop net trips on the Helena. I mean, this was a long time ago. Hey, Todd Mansard, it's all Todd's fault that you and I are together. Todd brought me over, took me by my hand over to meet you 20 years ago at the Fred Hall show. It wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Todd. Love you, Todd. Love you very much. But you and I have had so many fun times fishing. Forget about the company. Forget about the lures. Just the camaraderie and the friendship that we built just because of both of our passion. I love baseball. Angels forever. They're my team. My dad's manager for a while at Dana Orr Sport Fishing was the manager of the Angels, Bobby Winkles. We got to go watch the Oakland A's when he was managing them. And then all of a sudden, here comes John Bretza into my life. Fishing and baseball, it was just a match made in heaven.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think we're going to lose Ohtani. It's tough to see. But, you were just talking about, the Helena trips. I don't know how many your viewers actually ever did that trip, but that was one of the coolest trips that I've ever been on. And, I brought both my boys on that trip. And I think everybody knows how much Dave Hansen can talk, his seminars. Well, my younger son, Zach, you can't get a word in when the two of these guys are on the boat together. They both talk nonstop. And, you'd mentioned about the candy. You were teasing about the candy. You fed him a big steak. He thought this was the best thing he's ever done, right? And then he gets back in my new truck with leather seats, and he puked in my back seat on the way home. So I appreciate that, Dave, for getting them all sugared up.
Oh, yeah. We had those. We would have T-bone steak. We'd give everybody a steak dinner with all the fixings, corn, mashed potatoes, salad, and then 5 hours of hoop netting. And we would fish in between the sets on the hoop nets. It was such a fun thing. I don't know why it hasn't kept going down there because it was such a bitchin' fishery, such a fun time. We got Calvin all wound up on it, and it was really going good. People were really enjoying themselves. And then I found that backpack that he had of that candy, and oh my gosh, him and I, we ate those big steaks, and then we sat on that engine hatch and ate candy for like an hour and a half. And then I'm like, here you go home with your dad.
Yep. Well, he loves hanging out. He goes to the seminars, when we're at the Fred Hall or PCS show. And as you saw, I actually brought my dad, to PCS, who hadn't heard you speak before. And man, I thought he was going to fall out of his chair. He was so entertained. But, same thing with Xander. You're talking about Xander. I mean, that kid, I can't be more proud. One, he's tearing up with baseball. But as far as a fisherman goes, his goal is to outfish me every time we go out. And, he works, as a deckhand, when he's not playing baseball. So he's just learned a tremendous, amount working out on the boat. He's up playing collegiate baseball in Western Canada right now. And of course, he wants to fish wherever he can. So his goal was he wants to catch a northern pike. He's never seen one before. Within 24 hours, he had his fishing license, and he called me and said, "Dad, I caught my first pike."
Oh, how wonderful.
Less than one day, and he's already accomplished his goals up there. But same thing with UNLV. He took his stand-up paddleboard, and next thing I know, he goes to Lake Mead, and he is just slaying. He'll go up for 2 hours or so, and he's catching 20 smallmouth. Every time he goes out, like good quality fish. And so everywhere he goes, he seems to kind of figure out the patterns and ways to catch fish.
Oh, they have the bug. They both own that bug. They have it big time. They have that bug and they got it. And they're so blessed to have you as a dad. I'm sorry. I'm a big time kid guy. Me and my boys are tighter than ever. You can't get any tighter. And then you guys, you and Michelle, the way you've raised those kids, it's just been spectacular to watch, man. And they have so much respect for you, and it's so fun to watch. And I tell you, I'm super happy to have you guys in my life and watch those guys grow up, and then all the cool things that you and I have been able to accomplish. And Todd, too, with your whole focus on the way that you design the products over there. Oh, cool. Here, check it out.
Yeah, look at that.
There they are. Which is that, Zach?
It's Xander hitting a home run up in Canada.
Oh my gosh, how cool is that? Oh my gosh, check that out, you guys. Unbelievable. How cool. That is insane. Here it goes. See ya. Unbelievable. Thank you, Elliot. That was awesome.
That popped up and I thought my screen was sharing. I was like, where'd that come from?
That's the magic of our social media director, Elliot. He's the very, very best at what he does. And that was cool to bring that up and show us. Look at that. There's his name right there, man. He's a stud. He is a stud. But back to what we were just talking about, product development with Okuma, being a fisherman and being who you are in the industry, being able to start to develop. And I know that you have we're going to start on this and then we're going to break off for a commercial real quick, but the Makaira series reel, what a bitchin' machine. I mean, just an insane machine. And I was able to be in the very beginning because of Todd and you and watch the design of the Makaira come together. Just talk about it for a few seconds, because I think the Tiburon thing, the whole connection with that is something people don't understand.
Yeah, sure. So, being a passionate, saltwater fisherman, working for Okuma at the time, we had struggled, at times. We had multiple different, offshore products, but, we had, corrosion issues here or there. And, we got our own engineering base, but our goal is, we want to build the ultimate saltwater reel. And, we challenged a company. We went outside of our own engineering to talk to the best people in the industry. You mentioned Tiburon, who did the Smart Shift reels. They worked very closely with us. They helped us build the custom-made thrust bearing, which is really one of the key elements to the Makaira to make sure you don't get side loading. We worked with Cal Sheets. It's interesting. I worked with Cal Sheets on the original prototype, and he gave me a 2-page write-up on different things that we could work on. And he told me, he's like, if you hit 3 or 4 of these, you're going to be right in the game. Nobody's ever hit all these points. We redid a prototype, brought him back, and I said, we've hit every point on your list. He's like, that's incredible. Nobody's ever done this before. And then, another guy you hear all the time on the message boards is Alan Tanney. This guy does a lot of aftermarket upgrades and servicing. And, he brought to us, a lot of different things, such as like TSI oil, which is why the products free spool so well for Southern California fishing. And so all those key things, going outside and listening to kind of experts in the market, was key. But then to touch on something else that you mentioned, I work with with you, Dave. You mentioned Todd Manser, at the time, Dave Grimes. I worked Danny Osuna, down in, Puerto Vallarta. And then, we work with guys like the Excel, the Tribute, a lot of different sport boats. And the key is listening to the market. Our goal is that when we built the Makaira, we wanted to build a reel specifically for these Southern California anglers we know our long range fishery is unique, where, you're not chasing, something down, a tuna down on a private boat. You're stuck on a big boat that's not chasing them down. So, there's different demands, especially with braided line. And, we need to listen. And, that's my job with a passion for fishing, to go out there and listen to the experts. And, that's what we did when we developed the Makaira.
And it's such an unbelievable machine, if you will, for lack of a better word. The way that it's so smooth, you can pick up a 30 or a 30 or a 50 wide, and you can pick it up and you can toss a bait. The smoothness of these reels is mind-boggling, and I didn't know it was that oil. Now I have a better understanding, because you know me, I'm not a big the oil and the gears and all that. I just love the fact that you can pick it up and you can toss a bait so easily. And then as that bluefin came in 2015, and we started to see that bluefin, and it started to bite the kite, and it started to happen. And my guys, we were fishing with the Makaira 30s back then. And my boss was like, no, there has to be a better way. And I came to you and I asked you, and you're like, really? Do they want to just catch? And I'm like, yeah, we're not into holding the pole and winding it in. We want to catch these, for lack of a better word, damn bluefin, because they kick your butt. You spend so much time, and you're like, dude, take one of these 130s out there and see what happens. That was a game changer for us. We were catching that 200 to 300 pound bluefin in 10, 12, 15 minutes, putting it in the rod holder. I have plenty of videos about it. But gang, when you're turning that handle and you have so much torque with that 130, it is an absolute machine. And I know a lot of the Wicked Tuna guys are using them now. And we were kind of on the cutting edge back then in 2015. And we had 2 of them on the boat. And we only used those for our kite fishing, because it's just an unbelievable machine. But you had me fishing with the smaller ones right in the beginning. What were those, 5s and 10s, I believe?
Yeah, starting with a 10 size.
And I was catching those yellowfin on the slide on those things. And you would turn the handle, gang. It's got like a power handle on it. You would turn the handle on that reel, and the next thing you know, there'd be a tuna there, and you couldn't even comprehend, because I came from the world of fishing with the Jig Masters and the Squidder Juniors, and they got no torque and they got no gearing. And then this Makaira series reel came into the game, and it is an absolute, I don't care who you are or what you like to fish with. If you haven't touched one of these reels yet, you've got to put it in your hand and see the torque. It's incredible, the amount of power that these reels have. And we were fishing those 130s with 40 pounds of drag and 200 pound braid filled to the rim, about 1.5 miles of line. And we were flying that kite and just wailing on those bluefin. Can you talk about that reel a little bit, or why is it so easy to turn the handle?
Well, so, the 130, I think you were the first person to fish the 130s in Southern California for tuna. But man, I remember you promoting, I can't remember, like 8 minutes or something. You had one bluefin I remember you brought right to the boat, and nobody could believe it. But, the real secret, it's a flux capacitor that we installed in it.
The flux capacitor. All right.
No, that's a joke.
Back to the future.
So, you mentioned the TSI oil for castability, but the cranking's totally different. So, the Makaira is unique because it has the helical cut gears. And so the advantage is that those are offset when they're cut, the gear teeth. So you have more gear tooth meshing at one time. So you get more torque, more pulling power. But going back to when I talked to Cal Sheets, the one thing that he was really impressed with was the anti-reverse system. So as you turn the handle forward, it pulls the anti-reverse pawls away from the ratchet, so it's friction free. So if you crank the Makaira, or you go pick up, some of the other popular reels in the industry, the 2-speeds, you'll notice ours is completely quiet when you turn the handle. You don't hear that vibration from the anti-reverse pawls. And so I always equate it to like a luxury car. Think like a Cadillac or something like that. Something that's extremely smooth. That's the difference when you're cranking with a Makaira. You can feel, because you don't have that vibration. Everything's really quiet and smooth. But because of that, our gears have to be a better quality and smoothness, and that's where the helical gears come from.
And something that blew my mind was, I think one day you and I were sitting down together, and you were watching some of my videos, and you're like, and I had the opportunity to go on a different boat with a different person every single day when I was guiding. Some years I was on 100 different boats in one year. I didn't always get to pick I know what rods I brought with me, but I didn't always get to pick and there was times where John and I would be watching a video in his office but we'd be talking and he would stop and he'd go, "That's not a Makaira," because you could hear the click, clack, click, clack, click, clack. And I'd go, "How did you know?" He goes, "Ours don't make any noise." And I'd be like, "Oh my gosh." And I'd be like, "Hey, you look at me, I'm not touching it. It ain't me. It's one of my members. It's one of my clients. It's not me." The design, that thought process you put into it as a fisherman, I mean, that's kind of a big deal, I think.
Yeah, the one thing with the Makaira, I've heard anglers say that the reel's so smooth that they're cranking every now and then. They have to look down just to make sure that the line's coming back on the reel. I mean, it is truly a different experience when you're cranking with the Makaira.
Well, that's what I was saying a little bit ago is when we were catching that, when we first started using the smaller Makairas before we got into the big ones and we were fishing that yellowfin, and you would be blown away when you'd look down at your reel and the reel was full of line already. And you're like, it didn't even feel like you were getting any, but you were getting the whole time. It's just so smooth, gang. I can't emphasize it enough how smooth this reel is. We got to take a quick break and just show you something. Pacific Sport Fishing Alliance, gang, has a trip coming up on the Sport Boat Success out of San Diego. It's a limited load trip for 10 people. There's still a couple spots available. You need to give Larry a call. The phone number's right there at the bottom. Contact Larry at Pacific Sport Fishing Alliance. Give him a call. Try to get on this trip. And also remember all the different things that Pacific Sport Fishing Alliance has. They have opportunities for lodging in Alaska and fishing with them in Alaska. And they got the smokehouse up there and the processing center, and they can process your fish. They have the lodge in Alaska. They have a lodge down in Mexico. There's just so many different opportunities with Sport Fishing Association, Pacific Sport Fishing Alliance. It's an unbelievable opportunity. If you're scared to go somewhere, you're scared to come to Mexico, you're scared to go to Alaska because you just don't know, give Larry a call. He'll take away all the fear. You can get into this whole sport fishing thing and see what it's all about. Going with some people that have been doing it for a long time gives you an opportunity to take away the fear. Go do some bucket list trips, like a trip down to Mexico or a trip up to Alaska. There's just so much opportunity. Just please check out Pacific Sport Fishing Alliance. We're going to throw up the QR code. You can go over there, grab it with your phone, see what it's all about. Give Larry a call. He constantly is answering his phone, and he'll dial you up in the right direction. So, all right, John. So you just got back from a big trade show that I had the opportunity to go to once. And I know you don't want to bring me there because everybody in all of the world would be in our booth talking to me the whole time, and that would be terrible for the brand. So that's why I don't go, because they don't want all that hype. And I understand, because it's gnarly when there's that many people that want to talk to me. So I understand I didn't get the opportunity to go, and that's okay. But what happened there? You guys introduced some new product. I'm just joking too, everybody. Relax. It's a joke. Calm down. You know me. But you guys introduced some new products. What we got going on?
Yeah, well, I mean, first thing, if we had you on the booth, I mean, we'd be so packed. We want to be able to talk to our customers. So, that's part of the problem. But, a couple items that, we introduced, a year ago, the Tesoro spinning reel. And this year we added an additional size, a 6,000 size, which I think is just going to be phenomenal for the Southern California market. Guys that, want to, throw poppers and, use for anywhere from, yellowtail to, yellowfin tuna, bluefin tuna. But we make a full range of sizes up to, the large 20,000 size. But, we have the Makaira spinning reel. This is a one step below, but in my opinion, this is really our flagship product. It's an extremely smooth reel with all machine cut brass gears. Say you want a heavy duty reel, you want to go down maybe to Cabo and fish in a kayak and try to get a marlin or a tuna or something like that. This thing's fully waterproof with, IPX7 rating. It can actually be submerged. And, it's got our dual force drag system, which, has a full carbon fiber drag system on the top and the bottom of the spool. So really just a tremendous reel. And, like I said, we introduced it last year, but this year we added additional sizes. And I think that 6,000 size is going to be a dynamite product for, Southern California. in the past, people look at spinning reels in Southern California on, the sport boats, and they kind of look down on them. They called them coffee grinders. But I don't care if you're looking at Okuma, Shimano, Daiwa, Penn, everybody's making a much better product. A lot of it has to do with, what braided line demands have put on tackle. It's forced everybody to make something that's stronger and more durable, and all the manufacturers have reacted. And this is a product that I would put up against any other spinning reel, in the industry. And, if you want to chase something, and if you got a private boat and you want to, go throw poppers into the middle of a breaking school bluefin, this is going to be a dynamite product for it, matched up maybe with like our PCH popping rod.
Yeah, it's like what I talk about all the time on our show, gang. I know you want to fish a conventional reel like I do, and you see us in the videos, and you watch me in my videos, and I show you me casting the lure a mile. But gang, like John just said, this is not your grandma or grandpa's spinning reel. This is a whole different world. It's not the coffee grinder that you grew up hearing about on the sport boats. These things are super smooth, well, the fact that it's waterproof, how cool is that? So you're not going to have all that deterioration from the salt. That's an incredible thing right there. But these things are going to make it so that all of you get to participate in the act of fishing. Because the biggest problem people have is casting. And you're trying to cast a conventional reel. And I didn't pick up a conventional reel and cast it a mile. John didn't pick it up and cast it a mile. We took years and years and years of practice and getting backlashes and picking them out. These spinning reels, like John said, they'll hold up to any conventional reel him and I are fishing with today. These things are an unbelievable machine, right?
Yeah, the biggest thing with this is, you got to put your ego aside. Like you just mentioned, I want to throw a conventional reel. But, there's times, if you pick up a spinning reel and you cast it, you're like, oh my gosh, I can actually hit that, school of breaking fish. It's not very often where, the tuna are bumping into the side of the boat. I actually had a trip like that the end of this last year where we put, 13 bluefin on the boat. And they're like 5 to 10 feet from the boat breaking. I've never seen anything like that, but that's not normal.
No.
Usually you get close and they want to sink out. So, that spinning reel definitely gives you some advantages. The only disadvantage is that you're not landing on the rail to, basically rail fish with it.
See what Cecil says there, John? He's going on a 2-day trip, and he only has 4 setups, and every one of them are an Okuma rod and reel.
I love it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Cecil. Thank you. That is awesome. So, gang, the spinning reel is a game changer because it's going to allow all of us to catch instead of just standing there watching. Not that I'm anything special, but standing there watching Todd Manser or standing there watching John Castor convention. Now you can stand there side by side with them with the confidence that if you hook a fish, that reel can handle it, right? And like you said, you go up to the 2200s, that thing's going to handle that big bluefin on the popper, right?
Oh yeah, and you get a tremendous amount of drag pressure on these. But the other nice thing, people get intimidated. When the tuna start biting, they want to go out on an overnight trip. But they think that everybody out there is going to be an expert, and they might be afraid to cast. Don't let that keep you, off the water. As a tackle manufacturer, people that support the industry, we want everybody to get out of the water and experience, that situation. It shouldn't be just left to the elite anglers that can cast. This opens up the opportunity to more people. Another thing, we want kids fishing. Dave, you just talked about my boys, Xander and Zach. There's no way they started with a conventional reel. You want to get the kids out of the water as early as they can, and everybody starts with a spinning reel. And now, regardless, we're talking about Okuma, but regardless of brand, everybody's making a good reel that, you can get out there and catch, quality fish with right now.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I promote this all the time on our podcast. And gang, if you're new to the podcast and you haven't seen this before, I do this every single day, Monday through Friday at 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. I've done just over 1,350 podcasts. I do the only live podcast that I know of in America 5 days a week. We do it 5 days a week, rain or shine. It doesn't matter where I'm at on the planet. We're doing this 5 days a week. Wednesdays are Okuma Wednesday. We always bring in some really cool Okuma products and show them to you, and we talk about it. Every day is a sponsored day. We got Thursdays are open right now. If somebody out there would like to pick up that Thursday, it's wide open. So if you want that, it's out there. But I just want everybody, because we have a huge brand new audience because of the fact that Dave and everybody over at Okuma is sharing this across all their social media. So we have a brand. If you want to talk about or listen to somebody talk about fishing 5 days a week, that's what we do. We bring in special guests. We bring in industry leaders, just like John. We bring in people that actually have a passion for this. And we do this thing Monday through Friday, 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So don't miss it. And then on our social media, let's show a video we just put out a couple days ago, Elliot, of me filleting a rooster fish on the back of a guy's boat. We've got over 2 million views in 7 days on just this one video, just on TikTok alone, not counting the millions and millions of views on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. But this video is pretty funny. Most of my videos, and I put out 3 brand new videos every single day, they're very comical. I like to keep it light and fresh. Here, listen to this real quick. So that's why it's dull. So, yep, it's dull. Oh boy. It's gonna be fun trying to cut this fish with this knife, like a butter knife. So we're gonna cut down his belly cavern all the way down to the tail. And then we cut across here. Well, this knife's like using a butter knife. Okay, then we're gonna come down here and we're gonna cut along his spine, just like when we're doing a Dorado or a tuna. Now I know you do it way better than I do. I know that. So make sure you leave that comment, because everybody in the world wants to know how you do it better. Then we're gonna grab the skin. And I know you pull the skin off way better. Your knife is probably way right. So, gang, just so you see, every day we put out 3 brand new videos, and then we put out a testimonial picture of our website, yoursaltwaterguide.com. We have a phenomenal website. We got a great app, and 99.9% of my videos when I'm fishing, they're straight fishing Okuma products, because I've been a part of the family for 20 years. I can't tell you how happy I am to be a part of the family. The product has never let me down. And you introduced another reel, the Alijos series, right?
Yeah, so I wanted to mention the Alijos. You know, we introduced the Alijos a few years ago, but then, you know, we upgraded recently. So, you know, we consider it a new generation. And the reason why I want to bring this up is that this reel is amazing. I call it the mini Makaira. You know, so, you know, we've talked about the Makaira in the past. You know how it's built and constructed. The Alijos is basically the same reel as a Makaira, just available in smaller sizes. It starts from a 5 narrow, and it does go up to 16, which is the same sizing as a Makaira, but it has a cast control system on the palm side, on the left side cover. But the upgrades that we did on this reel were a reaction from the Fred Hall show. I think it was 2 years ago, where we were working on this. And, you know, I worked also with Cal Sheets on this product. And what we ended up doing was we upgraded this Alijos to mirror the Makaira drag system. So the dual force drag that's in the Makaira is the exact same drag that's in the new Alijos. And then, kind of based on popular requests from the anglers that we heard at Fred Hall, was that, you know, they all said, we want a thrust bearing in this reel. So we took the Makaira thrust bearing and also added into the Alijos. So, you know, if you're looking to fish braided line for smaller reels to knock back big tuna, and this Alijos is like truly amazing. And, you know, like I said, any of the videos, anytime I talk at the shows, I call this the mini Makaira. It's one of my favorite products in the Okuma product line right now.
And that's a 2-speed reel too. So at the end of the battle, when you fly line your sardine and you hook that bluefin, at the end of the battle, you put that thing on the rail and you just grind that tuna right up to the corner, right?
Yeah, that's true. And, you know, the other upgrade that we did on this reel was that, you know, everybody loves a T-bar handle that's on the Makaira. So the Alijos features that same handle knob. So it's the same T-bar handle. Just, again, mini Makaira, just smaller sizes available.
What a bitchin' reel. That thing looks so incredible, and I can't wait to put one of those in my hand and fish with it. Now, does that mean that there's no longer the Android?
Yeah, so this took over the price point of the Andros, and the Cavala, which is a step below the Alijos, that took the place of the Metalloid. But both of those products, it's not taking those same products, switching the anodizing and relabeling them. Those reels were upgraded internally, a lot of upgrades. So they're really completely different reels. And, for the money, I mean, you're not going to beat a reel like the Cavala, what that's offering. It's just the stainless steel that's used inside is the same as what's in the Makaira. So, you're just getting a tremendous battle wagon.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to throw myself under the bus here real quick. Gang, when I first started with Okuma, I was a monofilament guy. I fished mono all the time. I didn't know anything about braid. People were talking about, oh, you got to try the braid. You got to do this. You got to do that. And John gave me a couple reels to try out. He's like, here, I need you to go test these out. And I went down to Hogan's Tackle in Dana Point. And I cranked on a bunch of braided line. First time, I never used it before. I didn't know nothing about it. I didn't know you needed to put something on there on the bottom of the spool. I didn't know anything. And I went out on the boat and I hooked my first yellowfin tuna and I couldn't wind it in. I'm like, this drag system absolutely sucks. I'm so pissed. I'm cussing this reel. I'm pissed. And I called John and I say, I'm coming to the shop. I'm driving and I'm in Dana Point. I drive all the way to Ontario. Needless to say, John already knows what the problem is because he knows his product. So he brings in everybody and they're all in his office. And I come in and I sit down at the desk and I'm like, here, I'm pissed, man. I brought this out. I was showing it off to everybody and the drag does not work. This is He goes, hold on, everybody. Watch this. Go ahead. Tell him what.
Yeah, it's funny. You beat me to the story. I was going to tell the story, but it actually starts before you came into my office, which I'll actually bounce back to. But we just held the spool, turned the handle, and you could see the spool line was stationary, but the spool was turning. So I asked you, did you back it? Of course I backed it, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, this is the number one call that our customer service guys get, when people get into braided line. Everybody's fishing braided line right now, but this story is from many years ago. And usually when people transition from mono to braid, they don't fully understand. It's so thin, it's so slick that it's going to slip on the spool unless you back it or put some type of tape down so that it bites. And so of course, Dave put his head down, walked out of the office with his tail between his legs. And we were talking earlier about listening to the industry. I've learned a lot from you and Todd and all the other product testers that you brought to me. And you guys also learned from us on the product side. But this goes back to where you mentioned you were all monofilament guy. We were fishing off out of Dana Point. We were down around the domes fishing white sea bass with Brandon Cotton back when he worked.
Oh, yeah.
Brandon Hayward was fishing with us on the Okuma boat at the time. And I don't even know if you remember, but I think Brandon nailed, a 52-pound white sea bass. I think I had a 42 and Brandon had a 40. It was like an epic day. And you kept hooking and losing fish, getting real frustrated. Oh, yeah. You were fishing all mono and we had kelp cutter rigs. You're kind of like being stubborn. And after that trip is when you started, man, I got to look into this braided line stuff. You can see how it cuts through the kelp. And we had those white sea bass literally go right through the kelp and you could just see it popping through the kelp line and we were able to land them. And then, that in turn, turned into the story. You bring the reel into my office. And I remember you were about ready to come across my desk when I was laughing at you before I told you what it was.
I just didn't understand it. And yeah, that sea bass trip was brutal, gang. These guys, they were biting. I probably got 10 bites. I should have had 10 fish. They were biting, but I got broken off every time. And it's such, when you hadn't used braid before, and then you're using monofilament and you got to be so cool and calm and kind of let them, they would go right into the kelp and snap me off every single time. And I watched Hayward, and it's the most violent fishing I had ever seen. I'd never seen anything like it before. And I tell you, I can learn. I have the ability to learn still. And I would watch you, Hayward, Cotton. You guys were violent on these sea bass, and I'd never seen anything like it before because we're fishing straight rope, if you will, braided line, and it would cut right through the kelp. And here's me. Oh, I got this. I'm using monofilament, and every sea bass I hooked broke my line, every single one. And I was convinced from that point forward that I needed to jump over and get into the braided world. And it's been a giant plus in my repertoire now, and I teach everybody straight braid all the time. That's what we fish. And I know it's brutal, those of you that are watching that run sport boats, to see the guy come out on the boat that doesn't know how to follow his line or keep his line in front of him with braid. But most of the time we're on a private boat. But you got another thing, another cool thing that's everybody's into now is this what the new jigging system. The new jigging system rod, the thing, I don't understand it. It does. I know it's going to be bitching when I finally put one in my hand, just like the braided thing and the whole thing. I don't understand it. Why don't you talk about that a little bit in your PCH rods that you've developed for this?
So it's actually Tesoro. So what we introduced at the ICAST show this year was Tesoro jigging rods. So the one that you're seeing in the video right now, these are the heavy jigging rods, which you could use for kind of medium grade to smaller grade tuna. And I'm in the process of working with some of the local Southern California retailers to develop, specific like bluefin jigging rod, for these, heavy, flutter jigs that they're using right now. So, that's something to look forward to early next year. But, the big thing with this craze is the slow pitch jigs. And so, it's really big, down in the Gulf and down along the in the Southeast, Florida area. And we're starting to see it, grow a little bit here in Southern California. I think it's something that we're going to really see explode here over the next several years. I know, Mark Mills has talked about it on the show, as well as some other, brands. It's a growing market. One thing that's nice is that you drop a live bait down to the bottom, you get hit, you got to bring your line all the way back up. You throw a metal jig down there, that thing's working all the time. You can keep it in that strike zone longer, than you can with the bait. You can move it around a lot quicker. Because you're fishing with thin braided line, the line and lure shoots down real quickly down towards the bottom. So, you basically gain fishing time, when you're utilizing these these rods, but they're basically almost like a bass rod. They're more parabolic, so you can get that jig action going, but they're just a ton of fun, especially for like the guys fishing rockfish. I was using these out of Dana Point rock fishing. It just makes the experience so much fun. And on the slow pitch rods, we actually came up with a spiral guide configuration. So the guides actually spiral around the rod. And the huge advantage there is that, when you're jigging, you're moving that rod up and down. What's the most common thing that happens is that your line wraps around the tip of the rod. And because the guide is usually faced up, the tip guide, it'll tangle. It won't come off. So with the spiral guide configuration, that tip is facing downward, so you get less tip wrapping. And of course, it helps, other things from, the blank twisting and all that other stuff. But, the main advantage is you get less tip wrap. And, I'm just telling you, this is going to be a growing trend that you're going to hear a lot more of in Southern California. I'm sure, this next year, when we get to Fred Hall and PCS, you'll see a lot more seminars with guys talking about, slow pitch jigging from, everything from, bass fishing to yellowtail. We've heard about guys doing spotted bay bass fishing down in San Diego and just, slamming the fish. So a lot of versatility, a lot of different species you can catch with this style of jigging.
What a cool thing is some new thing coming down the pipe that I'm an old school guy, and like we just talked about, it was a perfect segue. I didn't even think about it when we were doing it, but the whole thing from monofilament to braid was just a giant transition for me. So I've got to trust in you that this is going to be fun to do, and I can't wait to try it. And it's going to be bitching because, like you said, we had Mark Mills on here who was kind of talking about it. I had Steve Carson talking about it. Now I got you talking about it. I guess Cap Dave's going to have to go try it. Going to have to take off the bait and go try this slow pitch jigging.
Well, so the early years of jigging, you'd hear guys throwing, these really long vertical jigs, and it was speed jigging, right? I remember I took Jonah from Highest Tackle in San Francisco. We went to Costa Rica, and when we introduced the Solterra lever drag reel, the graphite lever drag, and we're vertical jigging, first time field testing, first drop ever with a Solterra, and I hang a 60-pound amberjack. I got my butt kicked, and I was like, man, I'm afraid to drop this jig down again. I don't want to hook that same fish right away. But, vertical jigging, the high-speed jigging, it wears you out. I've done a lot of that style jigging. When you're doing the slow pitch jigging, it's like long sweeps of the rod, so it doesn't wear you out as an angler. So it's going to open it up to where, if you're doing the high-speed jigging, I mean, you got to be in shape. You got to be ready to do that style fishing. So, this is a totally different animal than, kind of what you're used to thinking when you hear about jigging. So anyway, a great new technique, and, we're going to see this one growing here in the next few years.
Nice. How cool is that? So, gang, we got about 10, 12 more minutes left of the show. If there's anybody that has a burning question, which is kind of a cool thing because you don't ever get this opportunity. And if you go to the Fred Hall, or you go to, the Bart Hall, or you go to the Pacific Coast Sport Fishing Show, John's usually got so many people around him, it's hard to even get a question in. You got an opportunity. If you want to ask him a question here in the next 8-10 minutes, feel free to go ahead and send it in on Facebook or YouTube. I know a lot of the guys, Dave Brown and other guys that are watching the show, are answering questions as fast as they can. I see them jumping up on the screen, and I want to thank everybody for that and helping out our viewers. But we're not done by any stretch of the imagination. We're going to keep going with this while we wait for a few questions to come in. But John, of all the places that you've had the opportunity because of who you are in the company and where you get to go, where's been your very most favorite? Because there's a lot of people out here who want to go fish somewhere. Where's been your very most favorite place to go fish?
I had a feeling you're going to ask that. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. If we're talking in the U.S., Venice, Louisiana, I absolutely love it for redfish and fish offshore for yellowfin, fish, amberjack at the rigs. I used to go every year to North Carolina for the bluefin over there, but then I started going up into Canada, Prince Edward Island. I've been fortunate enough to get a few 1,000-pound bluefin. It's just amazing fishing up there.
Nice.
Been to Costa Rica a lot.
Tim sent in a question. You got an answer for that one?
What's the question?
See it on the screen?
Will they ever make a left-handed Makaira? So I get asked that question, quite a bit. Actually, Cal Sheets had figured out how he can convert a Makaira until he got to the gears, or the helical cut gears, because you need a special machine to do that. And so that was the one thing he was not able to figure out. We've talked to the factory about it, and if we get enough requests for it, we'll look into it, but we don't want to just take the side plate and rotate it where everything's going to just be opposite. If we build a left-handed Makaira, it's going to be built from the ground up to be a true left-handed reel. So it requires a lot of tooling, and we do get asked for it occasionally, but it's a very expensive undertaking to develop all new model. So, tell all your buddies to contact us and say they wanted it. I mean, that helps me because, I'm the direct link to the factory and the engineering staff overseas. And so, as I mentioned, we listen to the market. If we get those requests, I'm going back to the factory in October and, to sit down about future product development. And, that's something that's on our radar. We do offer left-handed and some of the other machined aluminum lever drags in like the 12 size. But Makaira, we currently don't offer at this time, but something we've definitely discussed.
All right. So what reels would they want to look into if they wanted to get a left that you guys have available today?
Kavala. You can get a 2-speed Kavala 12. I believe we also have it, I think, in a 5 size, but you can get a machined aluminum 2-speed from us in that range.
Okay. That's good to know. That's good. You all heard that. And now back to Prince Edward. When you're up there, oh, wait a minute. Got another question. Never mind.
So for the Makaira spinning reel, our PCH popping rods, if you're planning to go out there and throw that for poppers, that's what I would recommend. We got a great rod within the PCH line. We offer 2 different models of the popping rod, and I definitely just go with the heavier version. So
Nice.
back to, Prince Edward Island. I mean, it's amazing to see these Volkswagen buses come out of the water. You can hand feed them. Costa Rica is incredible. I mentioned about that amberjack, but I'd really have to narrow it down to two different trips that I've had. One is, I work with all of our agents around the world to develop Okuma products for their regions. And I fished with Paul in Australia in a private island on the Great Barrier Reef, fishing for a giant trevally. That was absolutely incredible. And then the other one was fishing in Alaska. I've always wanted to go south, but fishing in Alaska on a mothership, going to a different anchorage every night and fishing for halibut, salmon, lingcod. That's probably one of my best trips I've ever done.
Do you see that question from Martin there?
10.
Will Okuma make a 10-foot all-glass rod for casting surface irons? I have a couple of them that are 9-foot that I love, the PCH extra heavy 9-foot that I love for fishing the surface iron. Is there anything like that, a 10-foot coming out?
So as an angler, of course, that's something I want to develop, since I'm a Southern California guy, throwing jigs. Unfortunately, with producing overseas, we got to throw those in a container and then shipping right now. If we were to ship that rod to a customer, the shipping cost by itself is probably going to be between $100 and $150, not even counting the rod. So because of that, there's a lot of limitations. Usually right now what you see is the manufacturers producing in the U.S. are able to do that because they're hand delivering those products to the tackle shops. And so, that's the one limitation that we have producing that rod overseas, just because of what it does for the shipping.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a big deal because we're paying the same amount for the rod as we are for the shipping. It doesn't really work out very well. But that was a good question, Martin. Thank you very much for that. Gang, is there any other questions out there? We got a few more minutes here with John, and I just want to thank John so much for being a part of this show. There we go. You and I love San Clemente Island. I mean, San Clemente, I was hoping you were going to talk a little bit about that because I know you've gotten to do that quite a bit. San Clemente Island is so accessible, especially out of Dana Point Harbor, the closest harbor on the coast. San Clemente Island is an incredible fishery for calico bass. Wouldn't you say? It's just insane.
Yeah, I love calico bass fishing. My favorite place, I actually ran out there with one of the guys that, we sponsored, Ballast Point guys. They ran me out there on their bay boat. And I'll tell you, I know you've always fished it from big boats, but the experience from a little bay boat, watching these fish look, rooster fish, right? How they come after like a torpedo. That's what these calico bass do. They come, you're fishing such shallow water, and they just come torpedoing after these big, as you'd call rubber baits, the soft plastics. And I mean, very few places that you can actually see that. I've been fortunate to fish Cedros Island, which is an incredible spot. And my personal best, believe it or not, I said, I just love fishing. But I went to UC Santa Barbara and, Campus Point, I'm up there in the red triangle, right? Home for all the great whites. And I start fishing up there in a float tube in the kelp beds. I got my personal best the first time out at 10.6 Calico, which I haven't beat yet. And I mean, just incredible. And so I'm being in college, I thought I'm going to be smart. Instead of having my feet dangle, I buy a kayak. And I thought that's going to keep me safe. And of course, you hear everybody get hit in kayaks, but that just fueled my passion, being in college, come down here. And I still do a ton of, I know Dave Brown's on here. We both do a lot of kayak fishing and, any opportunity, whether it's in the boat, from the beach, from the kayak, we're going to try to get out on the water.
Right. Gang, like everybody that we've had on the show that's been fishing for 30, 40 years, 50 years, every single person in Southern California always comes back to the calico bass. The calico bass, if you don't enjoy calico bass fishing, it's because you probably haven't done it right or you haven't done it. Like Dave Brown, John, Brandon Cotton, myself, Todd Manser, man, when we have a day off or we have any time, we go after the fish that lives in Southern California. Calico bass fishing is incredible. I have a lot of videos out there with the Komodos. those reels are phenomenal for calico bass fishing, right? What a bitchin' little reel. We're going to end the show talking about that, and then we got to get going. We've already got Elliot for an hour. We got to wrap this up.
Yeah, Komodo is just amazing. As I mentioned earlier, I love throwing A-rigs. I throw it on the Komodo and the PCH inshore rod. And I don't know if you remember, it was about 2 years ago. You put me on a spot down at Dana Point, and Kelly got mad because I went over there and I took gill from our company, and we released 200 calico bass, not one live bait, all soft plastics, throwing the little sand eels. And Gil, who loves calico bass fishing too, he was blown away. Fishing right out of Dana Point. You don't have to run far. Just a great way to also introduce people to fishing. Because you can get out there and catch a lot of calico bass.
Oh my gosh. And that spot it's insane, right? It's just incredible. And yeah, Kelly girl, she loves, we talk about it on the show all the time. She loves to fish calicos. That's just like me. We just love to fish calicos. The really cool thing about fishing calicos is you don't have to, like I talk about on my show all the time, you don't have to spend thousands of dollars on fuel. You don't have to go buy the Makaira 130 so you can winch in the bluefin. And it's just accessible. It's right there, like you said. And that was a question just came up, and we'll go back to that in a second. But like you said, you started out fishing in front of Santa Barbara, fishing calicos. Dave Brown, grab that float tube, go catch calicos or go catch spotted bait bass. It's just a fun fish to catch, good eating, fun to catch, always in a beautiful setting. It's not middle of the ocean, wind blowing, rougher than heck. You're usually in a bitchin' cove or somewhere really cool where the scenery is phenomenal, right?
Well, how often have you been out there fishing calico bass and wham, you get hit by a yellowtail? So, you think you're fishing calico bass, you get an opportunity, you increase that prey density, right? You're out there chumming, other fish are going, you get the mackerel and everything else, and it turns into another bite that you're not expecting.
And that Komodo reel with the big power handle, on that thing. Oh,
well, it's all about the stainless gears.
What?
All about the stainless gears and the high drag output in that reel.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, because I remember when you had the little paddle handle and my hand would always slip off of it. Yeah. That was the biggest problem. And then you're like, hey, try this power handle. And I remember I came into the office and you and Daniel, and it was just insane. Yep, there it is. There's the video. So talk about that reel real quick.
Yeah, so, the Komodo, we make a little 200 size, which is what I use for, spotted bay bass fishing and, calico. But the 350 and 450, if I'm going to pick, if you're going to ask me what 3 reels I'm taking for Southern California fishing, it's going to be a Komodo, a Tesoro 5, and then it's going to be a mix probably between like a smaller Makaira or an Alijos. But you can catch just about anything in our waters other than those huge jumbo bluefin. We've had reports of, 80 to 100-pound bluefin caught on, these 450 Komodos, but, they're just a workhorse. When you get drag outputs of 25 to 30 pounds and the stainless steel gears and you mount braided line, it allows you to fish this reel just like you would on bigger reels. Kevin Matson, one of our product testers, uses that reel for wahoo fishing on the long range trip. So, just a true workhorse and really, one of the key products for Okuma for the Southern California market.
I got a question for you because I don't really know the answer. When you put that low profile level wind reel in your hand, it just feels more like a tank than the normal low profile reels. The normal low profile reels are like, they feel like plastic in your hands. And you can feel them when you're cranking on a fish, you can feel them twisting and cracking and smacking, and you can hear the sound. When you've got that Komodo, it almost reminds me of driving a Hummer. It's kind of like that. It's such a big, and it's not heavy. When you put it in your hand, you think, oh God, nope, it's not heavy, but man, it's just like a tank. And then that finish on it, it just looks so bitchin'.
Well, I think the term a tank is kind of exactly what we were shooting for. The goal was to make an ultimate workhorse reel that you could use to supplement your Makairas, your Tesoros, and now you have the Komodo. It could fit right in that same line, when you're taking out selection of 3 to 5 rods on an overnight or 2-day trip. But you know, the aluminum construction, you know, the finish on the outside, it all kind of lends to that, you know, feel, that tank feel.
That's what I think of it every time I touch it. And I've had other low profile level wine reels in my hand. And until you actually touch this, and go down, do yourself a favor, gang. Don't listen to John or I. Go down to a tackle shop, one of your local tackle stores, and go down there and just say, hey, grab a normal low profile level wine reel, grab it, touch it, feel it, and then put that Komodo in your hand and just tell me if you can't feel the difference. It's just an amazing thing. I don't know how to describe it because I'm not into the product development part that you are. You can explain why it feels so different as a tank, the design of the reel.
Well, you know, the other thing too is that, I'm with the factory. I work with engineers, design this product, you know, so very easy to say that I'm biased, but I also fish all this product. The best thing that you can do is go to some of the message boards. You know, BD Outdoors is popular in this market, and you will find all kinds of threads talking about the Komodo or the Makaira. And these are from other anglers that have experience. And it's amazing, like the stories, what these guys talk about and what fish they've caught on it, and, you know, just the durability factor. You know, so I'd highly recommend that to, you know, anybody looking for new products.
And then the castability of that reel is insane. I have a couple of videos on my social media showing the castability of that, and casting a popper in the harbor in Cabo San Lucas and winging that thing where I have to actually stop it because it's going to go into the yachts across the way. Right. The castability of that reel on a PCH, and I like the 9-foot PCH rod. That's my deal. Fishing with straight braid, the way that front 5 or 6 inches has that softness in the rod, so that when you're fishing with the braid, you don't just snap it when you set the hook on your fish. Can you talk about the PC? There it is. There's the video. This one's got, I think, 7 million views across social media, and it's just me being me.
So as far as the castability goes, Dave, there is something that separates this reel from the other reels in the market. You know, if you look at, you know, the more popular 350, 450 size reels, their reels disengage the level wind. So, you know, the one problem is that if you're cranking your level winds on the left side of the reel and you go to cast, your line is going from left to right. And if you have that big transition, it creates a big right angle. That's going to put tension on the level wind, and it reduces castability. Most people think because it disengages, they're actually going to have better castability. It's actually the opposite. So with the Komodo, when you cast the 350 and the 450, the level wind will go back and forth as you're casting. So it stays in line with your braided line. And so that allows you to cast further, and you don't have that big angle that's going to create, you know, problems when a fish either pulls drag or it's not going to slow it down as it's coming flying off your reel.
That's me down in Florida fishing the peacock bass with the Komodo reel. I'm telling you, that reel, I just throw a couple of those in my backpack when I'm traveling. I throw a couple Komodos, and I can go grab a rod at any store and go fishing. Because the hardest thing about travel and fishing is travel rods. And you guys make a travel, I mean, we only got a few minutes. You got to, but this video is incredible. The peacock bass fishing down there in Florida. This is another video with millions of views that we have across social media. Gang, the really cool thing about having John here today is, if you look at the comments on these videos that I have, we have hundreds of thousands of comments a month. I get so many comments and people asking me all the time about the product. And now we got you talking about how bitchin' the product is. So I thank you so much for being a part of this show today, because I can't possibly answer all the questions. It's impossible. Plus, I don't know the composite makeup of these reels and all that stuff, you know. I just know that they're bitching. They work phenomenal, and I catch lots of fish on them.
Yeah. So, Dave, you mentioned, you know, the travel rods, right? You know, with Okuma, all of us at the company, we travel for work. And every one of us, when we travel, there's a Komodo in our case, right? Along with, you know, the Voyager signature travel rod. But I did want to mention, just before we get off, is that another new product that we introduced, you know, at ICAST, we took our most popular selling surf rod, the Rockaway series, and made it into a travel rod. So we added additional SKUs. It comes in that hard case. You can put it in the overhead storage. You can take it through TSA on, you travel a lot because you're down in Cabo. When we go down to Cabo, we take this, maybe with our new Flight Surf reel, and you catch rooster fish. You can catch all kinds of stuff off the surf. But it doesn't matter if you're going to Costa Rica, you're going to Florida, Texas, Cabo San Lucas. Amazing rods. I mean, these things retail for like $130 opening price point. And it allows you, say you're going down to Cabo to go fishing on a charter boat, but you're not going to maybe fish every single day, but you see those roosters, breaking off the surf line, when you're at your hotel, you have this with you. Now all of a sudden you get more fishing time. You don't have to always be out on a boat. And if you're a fisherman, you're going to want to have one of these with you when you're traveling.
Yeah, because nowadays the price just to bring your fishing rods and put them in a PVC tube or put them wherever, it's almost as much as the price of your airline ticket just to bring your rod. So what a great concept. What a bitchin' thing, that Rockaway deal. You guys really, once again, you're right there on the cutting edge, right there in front of wherever we all need to be, because travel nowadays is so expensive. And then to throw another couple $100 on it to bring your fishing pole, that's crazy. And throw a Komodo in your backpack. I have a couple of them in everywhere I go. I always have a couple of reels in my backpack because it's just a bitchin' reel. And like you said, you can catch pretty much anything. I have no desire to catch a big bluefin. So the peacock bass, the rooster fish, the calicos, everything's ready to go with that reel.
Well, you got to come back up here to Southern California so we can do some calico bass fishing.
As soon as you guys figure out that it's not okay to steal, I'll be back.
We got to keep the sea lions out of our boats so we can go on.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I could show you that picture, but we're gonna wrap things up here, John. We've gone over. We got Elliot. He's already 2 minutes over. I can't afford to pay him overtime, so we're gonna wrap this thing up, gang. John, you got anything you need to promote real quick before we shut it down? We got 1 minute.
I think we did it, and appreciate all the viewers. A lot of great questions.
Gang, thank you so much for watching the show. Like I said, your saltwater guide across all social media. I'm impossible to not see. If you're into fishing at all, you want to watch our podcast Monday through Friday, 12 o'clock Pacific time. I also have a phenomenal app. We have over 580 videos on the app that'll teach you how to fish. You'll never have to suck again unless you're into sucking. Then do not download my app. If you don't want to suck, don't download my app. But if you're tired of sucking, download my app. You'll never suck again. Thank you so much, John. Everybody at Okuma for helping us with this show. Thank you, everybody. This was awesome. John, we're not done. We're going to bring you back again. This can't be the end. Oh. Thank you, everybody, very, very much. John Bretza, thank you. Elliot, for always, thank you, thank you, thank you. Everybody, thank you. We're out.